Jodie Patterson has led many successful careers. She's worked in publishing, music, nightlife, PR, fashion, and beauty. She is a force. Launching 2 beauty companies, Georgia by Jodie Patterson, an all-natural line of skincare, and Dubop, an online beauty marketplace that was praised by Oprah Winfrey. Jodie is seen as one of the voices in beauty and has been featured in the New York Times, Glamour, Vogue, Teen Vogue, Essence, Cosmopolitan, to name a few. Jodie is also a mother of 5. And 7 years ago, everything in Jodie's world came crashing down when her 3rd child, Penelope, said at the age of 3 that he is a boy and not a girl. Today, Jodie is a social activist who travels across the country and abroad to talk about gender and transgender rights. She works to end gender phobia, transphobia, and sexism through conversation and broadening her community. Recently, Jodie visited Brooklyn High School for Leadership and Community Service in Clinton Hill, a transfer high school for youth between 16 and 21 that provides a student-centered, challenging, and personalized educational experience that empowers students to obtain their high school diploma and plan for post-secondary success. Jodie met with some of the high school students and engaged them in a powerful conversation.
Around 40 years old, I sort of hit rock bottom. I sort of dropped into this manhole and was not able to get myself out. All the resources that I had growing up, they weren't enough, right? And so what I did was I went back in time. I went back down south, back past generations of women, and I found women that were in my family that I didn't really know about. I mean, I'd heard about them, but they took on a different form for me. And I thought about them. I wondered what they had gone through. I wondered how they got back up. Because we know what those times were like. We know there were lynchings and deaths and poverty, lack of education. Families were torn apart. Children were killed, right? So we know that the women were up against racism and sexism, but yet they got up. Maya Angelou, one of my favorite authors, says, we don't stop and think long enough about the women who came before us. You gotta stop and think, stop and ponder. What did it take for them to get us here? Do you ever look at pictures from like the turn of the century, the way people are dressed? You know, like there wasn't much money for Black families down south, but our women were dressed beautifully, right? Hair was done beautifully. Hands in the pictures were held. There was like this dignity. So I'm thinking, how did they make it through slavery? How did they make it through the Jim Crow South? How did they make it through segregation, lynchings, death, poverty, lack of education, families torn apart, right? And these women, if you look at I don't know if you have old photographs, go back, the looks on their faces are unbothered, which means like, I know what's going on around me because I see it. Someone might have been killed in my family, but I'm not going to be taken down, right? I'm not, and I'm only imagining this from the pictures. They look like this is happening around me, yet and still I'm going to get up. I'm getting up, I've gotten up, and I'm going to get up again and again and again. The thing I learned from those pictures at that moment was the difference between winners and losers, right? Winners are losers who got back up. They just got back up. They didn't stay down. They got back up. And so these women, I thought, if they can get up, then so can I. We feel like we have all the time in the world. When I graduated from college, I felt like I'd have so much time. It's a lot less than you think. There's a lot less time than you think. Because the world is moving so quickly. And I mean that in that technology is sharing information all the time. So ideas are passing, not just selfies. Not just snapshots of the food we're eating, but I'm talking about ideas. Ideas are being shared all the time. And so our minds have to be that flexible. We have to keep up with them. I don't want you guys to be left out. And there are conversations that are happening amongst my friends and all the places that I travel that are beyond what I was taught as a kid. So we have to be ready to be in those conversations. When you leave this school, when you go to college, when you go to a job, people are going to be talking about things that are confusing. Right? And instead of getting confused and running, instead of getting confused and turned around and the world feels upside down, we cannot run. We have to have the ability to have a flexible mind. A lot of times people talk about success as knowing in high school where you want to go to college and knowing in college where you want to go into with your career. And there's room to explore. When I found my purpose was when it all sort of felt right. And I know people talk about that a lot, like it just felt right. But at a certain point when I started talking about Penelope and sharing our story and sharing the things that I had learned from our family and sharing it on a larger level, it started to feel right. And so that again goes back to community. It's really important to communicate with people, and for the larger, it's important to be seen and understood. And so when I started sharing my family's journey, I started seeing how much it changed other families. And I think, oh, you know what, this is what actually happened. The first time I knew I was doing something right was when Penelope started smiling. Because Penelope had been a really grumpy kid, really sad kid. When Penelope started smiling and stopped crying and stopped fighting and stopped saying, I don't want tomorrow to come, I knew that I was doing something right. We need each other, right? But we're so different, but we need each other, right? We don't speak the same language, but we need each other. So how do you get around that, right? Again, we got to get quiet a little bit, think before we make decisions about people, about situations. And I think another thing is that we have to really appreciate our differences. Like, differences actually matter. We're not all the same. We're really not. There are threads of similarities because we're human, right? Or we grew up in New York, or, you know. But the differences actually matter. And I think what I also learned is that we have to really look for our differences. And we have to, and they're uncomfortable at first because we all want to be the same, right? Like, who doesn't want to sort of fit in? Because it makes it easier in this life to sort of fit in. But we have to actually look for our differences. We actually have to think about our differences and want to be different and appreciate our differences. It's the small differences that actually tell people about you. So you have to show those differences so that people are like, oh, I can vibe with her. Or maybe not, maybe I'll go over here and vibe with somebody else. We have to really think about who we are on these little small levels, not to divide, but those are the things that are attractive about you. Those are the things that allow us to interbe. So sometimes we don't have the people around us to fortify us. Sometimes we don't have someone, like I'm trying to be for Penelope, to protect us and to nurture us and to build us up. And so two things I think we need to do. One is make new friends. Go find a new community. You really need, that's your job, is to build community. And it might be a lifelong job. It might be, I'm still trying to find the special sauce of friends, right? I'm always looking for new friends. And my daughter, who's 18, she's like, well, my friend group is, you know, so get a new friend group, expand. Well, and you don't have to leave friends, but you need to expand your friend group. When you don't feel nurtured, expand your friend group, find new friends, make new friends. That helps, that process of community and that process of connecting will make you feel stronger. The trick is, or here's the secret, in standing up for someone else, you're actually standing up for yourself. Because what they're going through, I guarantee you, it's affecting you. So there is no like, that person's problem. Because what Penelope was going through actually affected me. Penelope was talking about, I want to be seen for who I am, not for who you want me to be. Well, that's actually me too.